This video is sponsored by Pianote. Sometimes it's obvious that a famous singer or artist is using a stage name, like Alice Cooper, whose real name is Vincent Furnier, or Ringo Starr, whose real name is Richard Starkey. But sometimes their stage name is actually hidden in plain sight. For example, George Michael, whose birth name was actually Georgios Panayiotou, or Freddie Mercury, whose birth name was Farouk Bulsara. So today let's go through 67 artists and their real birth names, continuing on with John Legend, who was born John Stevens. Recent pop sensation Chappell Roan was actually born Kayleigh Amstutz. Hozier, most well known for Take Me to the Church, is actually called Andrew John Hozier Byrne, so Hozier is the first part of his double-barrel surname. Lana Del Rey's real name is Elizabeth Grant. Lord's real name is Ella Yellick O'Connor. Alicia Keys is actually Alicia Cook. Billie Eilish is actually Billie Eilish Pirate Bard O'Connell. Now, a Billie who's not actually a Billie is Leslie Sebastian Charles, who is better known as Billy Ocean. And another Billie that's not a Billie is Billie Holiday, whose real name was Eleonora Fagan. And Billy Idol is actually William Broad. Katy Perry is actually Katie Hudson, and she did actually release her first album under that name, and that first album was actually a Christian pop record. So she changed her name to Katy Perry to not only differentiate from that early part of her career when she was playing Christian pop, but also to avoid confusion with the actress Kate Hudson. Kendrick Lamar is actually called Kendrick Lamar Duckworth, so he just dropped the Duckworth. Calvin Harris is actually called Adam Wiles. Stevie Wonder was actually born Steveland Hardaway Morris. His stage name Stevie Wonder was given to him by Motown producer Clarence Paul, who named him Little Stevie Wonder, because at the time he was only 11 years old. Another Motown legend is Smokey Robinson, whose birth name was William Robinson Jr. David Bowie, or David Bowie if you want to pronounce it wrong, was actually called David Jones. Bowie reportedly changed his name to avoid confusion with Davy Jones of the Monkees. Elton John's real name, Reginald Kenneth Dwight. Bob Dylan was born Robert Allen Zimmerman. Cliff Richard's real name is actually Harry Webb. Madness frontman Suggs is actually called Graham McPherson. Suggs reportedly got his nickname by randomly sticking a pin into an encyclopedia of jazz musicians and hitting Peter Suggs. Now, one of Madness's biggest hits was It Must Be Love, which was actually originally written and performed by Labi Siffre, but Labi Siffre's real name is actually Claudius Siffre. Now, frontman of The Police, Sting, he was actually born Gordon Sumner, and he reportedly got his nickname Sting by wearing a black and yellow jumper, making him look like a bee or a wasp. Frontman of U2, Bono, is actually called Paul Hewson, and he wound up being christened with the nickname Bono at the age of 14 as a reference to a hearing aid shop in Dublin called Bonovox of O'Connell Street. Bonovox means good voice in Latin, so apparently he quite liked the nickname. Now, Bono's bandmate, The Edge, is not called The Edge, as you can imagine, he's actually called David Evans. Fatboy Slim is actually called Norman Cook, but in fact his birth name was Quinton Leo Cook. He adopted the name Norman, though, when he was being bullied for the name Quinton because pupils associated it with the gay actor Quentin Crisp. Now, particularly with the older generation, there's a habit to sometimes go by your middle name rather than your first name. For example, Paul McCartney, well, his first name is actually James. Paul is his middle name. Or Roger Waters from Pink Floyd, his real first name is George. Roger is his middle name. And Van Morrison, well, his actual birth name is George Ivan Morrison, so the Van is derived from Ivan, his middle name. An artist to just go by his surname is Morrissey, whose full name is Stephen Patrick Morrissey. Ozzy Osbourne is actually born John Michael Osbourne. Manfred Mann, from the group Manfred Mann, was actually called Manfred Lewowitz. Elvis Costello's real name is Declan McManus. Shakin' Stevens' real name is Michael Barrett. Engelbert Humperdinck is actually called Arnold Dorsey. Now, Cilla Black is actually Cilla White. Her real birth name is Priscilla White, but she acquired the stage name Cilla Black after an early newspaper article about her misnamed her as Cilla Black, and she decided to keep that as her stage name. Sandy Shaw was actually called Sandra Goodrich. Bing Crosby was actually Harry Crosby. Bonnie Tyler was actually born Gaynor Hopkins. Meatloaf was actually born Marvin Adair, although he later changed his first name to Michael. Buddy Holly was actually Charles Holly. Bo Diddley was actually born Ellis Bates, and his stage name likely comes from the diddley bow, a homemade single-string instrument from the Deep South. Muddy Waters was actually called McKinley Morganfield. B.B. King was actually called Riley B. King. The B in the middle probably stood for Ben, but it's not particularly clear. But the BB bit came from a nickname he acquired when he was a singer and DJ for the radio station WDIA. The nickname was originally Beale Street Blues Boy, later shortened to Blues Boy, and finally BB. And for another bluesman, Taj Mahal was actually born Henry St. Clair Fredericks Jr. So we've still got 19 stage names to work through, but first I'd like to tell you about the giveaway that I'm holding with today's sponsor, Pianote. Pianote is a fantastic online way to learn how to play the piano, learn different songs, and we're running a giveaway this month where you can get a whole bunch of piano goodies, including this satchel, also this chord and scales book, this practice journal. To be in with a chance of winning all of this, then do enter the giveaway by signing up for the free trial using the link down below in the description. Vanilla Ice was actually born Robert Matthew Van Winkle. Ricky Martin is actually called Enrique Morales. Frank Ocean's real name is Christopher Bro. Dr. Dre is actually Andre Young. Shania Twain is Eileen Edwards. Nicki Minaj is Onika Tanya Mirage Petty, so the Minaj is effectively the first part of her double barrel surname. Miley Cyrus is not Hannah Montana, but Destiny Hope Cyrus. Reportedly, her parents nicknamed her Smiley when she was young, which later got shortened to Miley. Rihanna is actually Rihanna's middle name. Her full name is Robin Rihanna Fenty. Lady Gaga's real name is Stephanie Germanotta. Father John Misty's real name is Josh Tillman, and his earlier records were released under this name. Elliott Smith's real name was Stephen Smith. So to finish off, what we're going to do is do a quick round of guess the stage name from the birth name. For example, who is Yvette Marie Stevens? Well, that is Chaka Khan. Do you know who Alicia Beth Moore Hart is? Well, she is better known as Pink. What about Peter Jean Hernandez? They are Bruno Mars. What about Abul Makanen Tesfaye? That is the full name of The Weeknd. Tim Bergling is Avicii. Sonny John Moore is Skrillex. Cardazar Kelvin Broadus Jr. is Snoop Dogg. And our last one is Christopher George Latour Wallace, better known by his stage names, The Notorious B.I.G. or Biggie Smalls or just Biggie. So there you go, that's 67 stage names and their actual birth names. If you can think of any other well-known musicians or artists with a stage name, then do let me know in the comments down below.